Hello there. My name is Erik Trautman, and I'm the founder of Viking Code School, and this is an information session about our programs. So basically what I want to do today is just give you guys a high-level overview of what we do at Viking and give anyone who's out there a chance to ask any questions that you guys have. If at any time you have questions about the programs that I haven't answered or you're watching this later, feel free to go to our website at http://www.vikingcodeschool.com, and you can email us at hello@vikingcodeschool.com. If you want to participate today in the broadcast, you're welcome to join in the Google Hangout if you're here. If you're listening in, there's a Q&A app. You can basically click it down from the top. There's a little blue Q&A icon. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in there, and I'll try to answer them as soon as I'm able. And otherwise, I'll just give a quick high-level overview of what we do. So the Viking Code School is an online web development school. We basically build software engineers from advanced beginners, and we've been doing this for about 2 years now. The program is 100% online. We actually run two programs right now. We run an Immersive Program and a Flex program, but they both share the same curriculum, and they both have the same goal, which is that wherever you are, whatever your background is, we want to be able to give you the tools that you need to become a web developer, to get a job and pass some of the hardest bars of admission that exist in the industry for leveling yourself into a job where you can be paid to learn and be paid to build as a software engineer. And so basically, the flagship program that we started out with originally was our Immersive Program. So the Immersive Program is a 16-week, full-time, essentially life-overwhelming program where students typically work up to 80 hours a week, and it's taking you all the way through it. You work with a cohort of other students. There's usually somewhere in the realm of roughly 20 students per cohort. So it's a small program relative to traditional bootcamp programs, but we also do a lot more than traditional bootcamp programs often do, in that we work with students for a full 16 weeks, in addition to the prep period before the course and the prep period after the course. And that's a program, even though it's online, which is actually available on a deferred fee basis for students who qualify, basically if you're US-based and you're a US citizen or have an unrestricted right to work. You can take that program instead of paying an upfront tuition or an upfront fee. You're able to defer that until you get a job, and then it's a percentage of your first year salary. So that's basically the program that we came out with as kind of the big silly risk for trying to make things like this more accessible for students who can't travel all the way to a major city, drop everything and join a boot camp there, or students who want a higher quality experience, because again, we're covering more material than you typically see in any of these programs, and our goal is to be the best out there, regardless of whether it's in person or online. And so that's why we get a lot of students who come and join us. The Immersive Program is, like I said, it's one that we've run several times. It's been around for over a year now. Right now we're in our third cohort, and we're gearing up for our fourth. And that's a program that's run through an application process. So if you want to get involved with that, we have our free public prep work available online at vikingcodeschool.com/prep. That actually has 4 mini courses, which kind of highlight some of our philosophy around educating, which basically you should be able to get a pretty good sense of how we present information, but also the fact that because those mini courses cover things that aren't necessarily traditional narrow path coding related stuff, you can kind of get the idea that one of our core values is context, which is the idea that we don't want you to just become a code monkey. We want you to be able to understand, why are you building the things you're building? How do you operate in an organization? How do you operate in an engineering team? So we cover things like design. We cover things like user experience and user interfaces. We talk about actual formal engineering problem-solving analyses, the types of things, again, that if you're just focused on how can I build Rails apps and come out with only that skill set, it's these are skill sets that take you beyond that mold. And so that's part of our prep work. And essentially, once you get to the end of our prep work, which will actually cover some coding stuff as well, you should be qualified to apply for the Immersive Program. Obviously, it's a program that's in pretty high demand, and so there's a pretty rigorous application process associated with it, which can take anywhere from several weeks to more or less as long as you want. There are no real fixed deadlines in terms of how long you can stay in the process, although for every cohort, we typically close applications several months ahead to make sure that there's enough time to prepare for the students who are currently admitted. As I said, it is a competitive process. It's one where we basically evaluate your ability to think logically and to essentially code solutions to logical problems. Your job here is to code, and so we're going to make sure that you can code. And on the flip side, because you're going to be working with lots of other students constantly through the program, we're also going to be making sure that you have communication skills that'll play incredibly well in this online format. So the Immersive Program is, as I said, kind of the initial program that we came out with. But of course, we've had a lot of people who came to us and said that they wanted to take this program, but they weren't really able to given their life situation. So we actually came out with the Flex program, which is currently in beta. And that's a program which allows you to take the same curriculum basically at your own pace, on your own time, and with whatever level of support you want. So it's designed to be a part-time program, but you can also take it as a full-time program. We have students who are taking it from countries where they might not be eligible for the Immersive Program's deferred tuition, and they still want to be able to take advantage of the curriculum. So they're putting in their 80 or 100 hours a week, going pretty crazy with getting through the material. And then we have other folks who are current students in school. We have folks who are a lot of folks who are working right now or have family obligations or some reason why it doesn't make sense necessarily for them to participate in a full immersive bootcamp style program, but they still want the same kind of value and experience out of that. And so that's a program that's available with several different support tiers where you can either choose to kind of, on the more basic levels, operate with the community, get access to instructors on during periodic office hours, and of course our Codecast speakers and things like that. But then also we have additional support where you can work one-on-one with mentors. And that's obviously a great advantage for students going through there. It helps you move faster, it helps you stay on track, and it also gives you a much more professional overview, a much more professional look at basically code review for the code that you have, so that you can begin to produce best practices, and you can get a lot more context for how you're operating as a developer in an industry context, because you can ask them those kinds of questions. And then as you get towards the end of that program, you're welcome to begin also working with other mentors, and we kind of set you up with mock interviews and things like that, so that as you're achieving escape velocity from the curriculum, that's something that you're able to take advantage of, and you can come out feeling as prepared as humanly possible. So for the curriculum itself, as mentioned, our philosophy is context, and it's also built around building. In the end of the day, building solves a lot of problems. What we want to do is get you to the point where you can build as effectively as possible. That means we cover tons of fundamentals, but in the end of the day, everything comes back to, can you build with it? Is it useful for building, or is it useful for you getting a job as a developer? And that's our core focus. And our goals are essentially to be able to teach you enough about the back end and enough about the front end that you could get a job as either a back end engineer or a front end engineer, which of course includes being a full stack engineer as well. So that means that we start off with Ruby. After the prep period, we'll teach you about object orientation. We'll teach you about testing. We'll teach you about data structures and algorithms. We'll teach you about you'll learn about web scraping and working with APIs, putting web apps online with Sinatra. We take a data-first approach to the way that we teach Ruby on Rails, and that means that you're going to learn SQL, you're going to learn data modeling best practices, and you're essentially, over and over again, you're going to be building apps from scratch, and you're going to be building the tools that you have to use from scratch. So again, it's about understanding. It's not about copy-pasting code. It's not about having hand-holding text editors. This is about you getting the skills that you need and essentially forcing you to solve hard problems with those skills, so that you develop and hone those skills, so that when you get out into a work environment, you can be comfortable kind of rinsing and repeating that same style of process, which again is sort of the essence of being an engineer. It's solving hard problems, hitting walls, bouncing off, finding creative solutions around them. And that's what's so much fun about it. So the goal of our curriculum is very much to get you to that point. As we transition from the back end to the front end, we'll do the same thing with JavaScript that we did with Ruby. So that means covering deep fundamentals of the language itself, understanding what is the language, how does language work in general, moving into a more functional programming style, and getting you up to speed with libraries like jQuery, and ultimately a full-on front-end framework like AngularJS, which is a production-level framework used by a number of different companies through the world. Essentially, once you have those skills, once you've learned Rails, once you've learned Angular, you can pretty much apply those skills for anything. So in the end of the day, you've probably heard that it doesn't ultimately matter exactly which technology you decide to learn on, as long as you go deep on one. That's essentially what we're doing here as well. It's you might be a Rails engineer, or you might go out and learn Python and Django. You might go out and be an Angular engineer on an Angular stack, or you might go out and learn React or Ember or Meteor or whatever it is. And the transition between those things is actually not that complicated. At the end of the program, something that we do that's unique to my knowledge among other programs is we actually have you work on a large group project. And this actually occurs regardless of whether you're in the Immersive program or the Flex program. And so it's actually the only required group project in the Flex program, and in the Immersive program, it's required to be a large group project. And basically what that is we want to throw you in and make you be an engineer for a period of 2 full Agile sprints. And so what that means is that you have to come up with the idea, you have to make mock-ups, you have to come out with user stories, and you have to order those stories into a series of sprints. And then you basically go through, you and your group will go through and basically be an engineering team during those Agile sprints. And in the full-time program, that'll be a two-week period, so 2 one-week sprints. If you're doing it part-time, typically it's 2 two-week sprints. And in the end, you'll do a presentation to the entire Viking community, and you've earned yourself, of the 80 projects that you end up building during the course, that in particular is really your crowning achievement, and that's the one that stands out in your portfolio. So in terms of the final mile here is how do you connect the dots? How do you turn all of this knowledge into a position, into a job? And basically what we do with that is we've baked everything into the curriculum from day one. That means essentially with everything else, it's all about context. And with finding a job, it's no different. And so our goal is to make sure that you understand the system that you're going into. This isn't a philosophy of just go out and spam out as many applications as you can. In fact, it's actually the opposite. It's you need to understand what makes you unique as someone who probably isn't coming from a traditional computer science background, who doesn't necessarily have the resume where it just sort of floats to the top of the pile. How do you stand out? What are your advantages in this whole thing? And how can you essentially hack the system to your advantage so that you can show your highlights in a way that actually make you more competitive than someone who just went through a cookie cutter program at some school, some engineering school. And so we basically take that and we use that model and carry it through the entire duration of the course so that you're progressively building out your personal portfolios and presence, reaching out to developers. We kind of show you the whole pattern for building your personal brand, and then connecting that to rolling that into beginning to find jobs, connect with jobs, reaching out to developers, going through the interview process, preparing for interviews, technical interviews, algorithm interviews, take-home challenges, and everything along those lines. And then finally, when you get all the way down to the end, it's supporting you through the negotiation process, through the offer handling process, and ultimately getting your butt in a seat so you can get paid to learn. So obviously, it depends slightly on which program you're in as far as exactly how that all comes together. But in the end of the day, we're here to help, and our goal is to launch careers. This is a mission-driven company. We have a goal of launching 1 million high-growth careers around the world, and this is how we've gone about doing it until now. It's worked out fairly well. We're still at it, and I hope you'll join us. So I don't actually see any questions in the queue. Again, you're welcome if you'd like to drop a question here. Otherwise, feel free to pop over to vikingcodeschool.com or send an email to hello@vikingcodeschool.com. And I hope that at the very least, you take a chance to look through our prep work. That should give you a pretty good sense of what what our educational philosophy is. If you'd like to take a look at our blog, you can go to vikingcodeschool.com/blog. We post transcripts of our codecasts, and we have a number of other posts that prior students have found very helpful as they've gone on the journey towards becoming a student. So please take advantage of that. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope that we'll see you soon. Have a good one.